The emergency alarm echoed through the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. Representatives from 40 different species rushed to their seats, their various forms of movement creating a strange dance of wings, legs, and floating mechanisms. Something terrible had happened, and everyone knew it. Representative Velmora stood at the center platform, her tall, slender body shaking. Her people, the Trellin, were herbivores who had never known war. They lived on gentle worlds where food grew easily and danger was rare. But now her voice cracked with fear as she spoke. Our colony on Velrin 7 is under attack. They came 3 days ago. We don't know who they are or what they want. Our defense systems don't work against them. They destroy everything. Please, we need help. The council chamber fell silent. For 10,000 years, the council had maintained peace. All member species came from what they called garden worlds, places with light gravity, stable weather, and plenty of resources. War was something from ancient history, a thing their ancestors had left behind when they joined together. How many defense drones have you deployed? Asked Senator Morvex, a floating jellyfish-like being who spoke through a translation device. All of them, Velmora answered. 300 drones. The attackers have some kind of biological weapon that shuts down all electronics. Our drones fall from the sky like dead birds. Murmurs of worry spread through the chamber. The council's peace had always depended on automated defenses. None of the member species maintained real armies anymore. They had no soldiers, no warriors, no one trained for actual combat. Who are these attackers? Someone asked. Velmora activated a holographic display. The image showed creatures that made several council members gasp. They looked like massive insects, standing on 2 legs but with 4 arms ending in sharp blades. Their bodies were covered in thick armor plating, and their faces had too many eyes and mandibles that could clearly tear through metal. We call them the Kravik Swarm, Velmora said. They come from a world with much stronger gravity than ours. They're faster, stronger, and they don't respond to any communication. They just attack and take everything. The council erupted into panicked discussion. High-gravity worlds were dangerous places that most council species avoided. The creatures that evolved there were always more aggressive, more violent, more dangerous. We must do something, Velmora pleaded. 300 of my people are trapped on Velrin 7. They're hiding in the underground shelters, but the Kravik are digging them out one by one. For hours, the council debated. They considered every option. Send more drones, but those would just be disabled too. Negotiate, but the Kravik didn't answer any messages. Evacuate, but they had no ships fast enough to reach the colony before everyone was captured or killed. Finally, as hope began to fade, a young archivist named Talren spoke up from the back of the chamber. He was small even for his species, barely noticed among the larger representatives. Excuse me, he said quietly. I found something in the old files. Something that might help. Senator Morvex gestured for him to continue. Talren's hands shook as he pulled up an ancient document on the main display. This is a first contact report from 200 years ago, he explained. It's marked with the highest warning level. It describes a species from a Class 12 Deathworld called Earth. Several council members made sounds of disgust or fear. Deathworlds were planets so hostile that life there had to fight every moment just to survive. Class 12 was among the worst possible ratings. A world of extreme gravity, violent weather, dangerous predators, and countless ways to die. What about them? Senator Morvex asked. Talren read from the file. The species calls themselves humans. They evolved as apex predators on their world. The report says they survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and competed with other predatory species for millions of years. They have a thing called a military, organized groups trained specifically for combat. Why would we contact predators? Velmora asked, though her voice carried a hint of desperate hope. Because, Talren said, according to this file, they're the only species in known space that still maintains combat forces. The researcher who made first contact noted that humans have fought thousands of wars among themselves, but they've also made peace afterward. The file recommends extreme caution, but suggests they might be willing to help others if asked properly. The chamber fell silent as everyone considered this information. Contact a species of evolved predators from a death world? It seemed insane. But what choice did they have? Senator Morvex spoke slowly. Does this file say how to contact them? Yes, Talren said. They provided communication frequencies and coordinates. The report says humans are curious about other species and generally peaceful unless threatened. Generally peaceful? someone muttered. What does that mean? Talrin looked uncomfortable. The report includes some historical data about humans. They've had something like 16,000 wars in their recorded history, but they've also built great civilizations, created art, and explored their solar system. They're complicated. Velmora stepped forward. I don't care if they're complicated. I don't care if they're predators. My people are dying. If these humans can help, we must ask them. The debate continued for another hour, but eventually the council voted. They would send a distress call to Earth. It was a desperate choice, but they had no others left. That night, a message went out across the galaxy, traveling faster than light through the communication network. It was simple and direct. This is the Galactic Council of Peaceful Species. We have a member colony under attack by hostile forces. We have no military capability. We request assistance. We can offer payment in resources or technology. Please respond if you can help. The message reached Earth 3 days later. In the Human Military Command Center, officers stared at the message in surprise. They had known about the Council for 200 years, ever since that first careful contact. The Council had always been polite but distant, treating humans like dangerous animals to be watched from afar. Now they were asking for help. Admiral Park looked at the message and smiled. Get me Captain Minho Kim. Tell him to prep the Indomitable for immediate departure. We're going to show the Council what humanity is really about. Sir? A young officer asked. What if this is a trap? Admiral Park shook his head. It's not. I've read the reports on Council species. They don't think like that. They're genuinely peaceful and they're genuinely scared. They called for help. And humanity has never turned away from those who need us, even if they're strangers, even if they're afraid of us. The officer nodded and hurried away to deliver the orders. Admiral Park looked back at the message on his screen and thought about what was coming. The Council thought humans were monsters from a death world. Maybe they were right, but monsters could be heroes too, depending on who needed saving. Captain Minho Kim stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, watching the stars streak past as his ship traveled faster than light. He was a tall man with sharp features and calm eyes, the kind of person who stayed relaxed even in danger. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations, preparing for whatever they might find at the Council's coordinates. How long until we reach the Council station? Minho asked. 6 hours at current speed, answered Commander Jiwoo Park from the navigation console. She was his second in command, a woman with quick thinking and quicker reflexes. Sir, we're getting some strange readings from monitoring stations along the way. What kind of readings? They're scanning us intensely, and I'm picking up encrypted transmissions. I think they're talking about us. Minho smiled slightly. They're scared. Our ship probably looks like a warship to them. It is a warship, said Lieutenant Soman Kang from her position near the tactical display. She commanded the ship's marine detachment, 40 soldiers trained for combat in any environment. We should be ready for anything when we arrive. Agreed, Minho said. But let's try the peaceful approach first. We're responding to a distress call, not starting a war. Dr. Hyun Choi looked up from her science station. She was the ship's xenobiologist, an expert in alien life forms. Captain, I've been reviewing what little information we have about the Council species. They're all from low-gravity worlds. Their bodies are fragile compared to ours. We need to be very careful around them. Careful how? Asked Engineer Dae Ho Yoon, who was making final adjustments to the ship's systems. We're stronger than them, Hyun explained. Much stronger. What seems like a normal handshake to us could break their bones. We need to move slowly and gently around them. Minho nodded. Good point. Everyone remember that when we dock. We're guests and we don't want to accidentally hurt anyone. The 6 hours passed quickly. When the Indomitable dropped out of faster-than-light travel, the Council station appeared before them. It was beautiful. A massive structure of flowing curves and glowing lights like a piece of art floating in space. It looked nothing like the angular practical designs of human stations. They're hailing us, Jiwoo reported. Put them on screen. A face appeared on the main display. It belonged to a being that looked vaguely like a tall, thin deer, but with large eyes and delicate features. The being's voice came through the translation system, sounding nervous. Human vessel, this is Council Station Primary. We welcome you. Please proceed to docking Bay 7. We have adjusted the gravity there to match your specifications. Thank you, Minho replied, keeping his voice calm and friendly. We're happy to help. See you soon. The connection closed. Jiwoo guided the ship toward the docking bay while the crew prepared for their first face-to-face meeting with Council species. When the docking clamps locked into place, Minho selected his away team carefully. He chose Jiwoo for her diplomatic skills, Yun for her knowledge of alien biology, Soman because they might need someone with combat training, and Daeho in case there were technical problems. The five of them put on their dress uniforms, formal but comfortable, with light armor woven into the fabric that wouldn't be obvious to observers. The airlock opened, and they stepped out onto the Council station. Immediately, Minho noticed the gravity. It was only about 60% of Earth normal, making him feel light and bouncy like walking on the moon. He had to concentrate to keep his movements slow and careful. A delegation of Council representatives waited for them in the docking bay. There were dozens of different species, some that looked like birds, others like fish in floating water tanks, some that defied easy description. All of them stared at the humans with expressions that Minho recognized as fear and curiosity mixed together. One of them stepped forward, the same deer-like being who had hailed them. "I am Representative Velmora of the Trellin people. On behalf of the Council, I welcome you to our station." Minho moved forward carefully and extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting, then thought better of it, and simply bowed slightly instead. "I'm Captain Minho Kim of the United Earth ship Indomitable. These are my officers. We received your distress call and came as quickly as possible." Velmora seemed to relax a little. "Thank you for coming. We weren't sure you would. We know humans find us strange." "All new things are strange at first," Minho said gently. "Then they become familiar. We're here to help. Can you tell us more about the attack on your colony?" Velmora led them through the station toward a conference room. As they walked, Minho noticed that other beings on the station stopped to stare at them. Some backed away. Others whispered to each other. The humans were clearly causing quite a reaction. The conference room had seats designed for various body types. The humans sat carefully, trying not to break the delicate furniture. Velmora activated a holographic display showing the Kravik swarm attacking the colony on Velran 7. "They appeared 3 weeks ago," Velmora explained. "We tried to communicate, but they ignored all our messages. They disabled our defenses with some kind of biological weapon, and then began systematically capturing the colony. 300 of my people are trapped there." Hyun studied the images carefully. "These Kravik are from a high-gravity world probably around 1.2 times Earth normal. They're adapted for strength and aggression. Their biology suggests they're pack hunters who evolved to bring down large, dangerous prey. Can you help us?" Velmora asked, her voice desperate. Minho looked at the tactical display, studying the Kravik positions and movements. He saw patterns there, strategies, weaknesses. This was something he understood. "Yes," he said simply. "We can help you." The room erupted in surprised chatter. Several council representatives looked shocked that the human had answered so confidently. You're certain?" Velmora asked. "I'm certain," Minho confirmed. "The Kravik are strong, but strength isn't everything. They're using simple tactics, overwhelming force and intimidation. They're not expecting organized resistance. We can use that against them, but how?" Senator Morvex asked. "They're stronger than any council species." "Stronger than council species, yes," Soman said quietly. "But not stronger than humans. We come from a one-gravity world. We evolved hunting creatures that could kill us easily if we made mistakes. We learned to be smart, to work together, to use tools and tactics. The Kravik think they're facing helpless prey. They're about to learn differently." The council representatives looked at each other uncertainly. They had asked for help, but now that it was offered, they seemed afraid of what that help might look like. Hyun spoke up, her voice gentle. "I understand your concern. Violence frightens you because your worlds don't have much of it. But humans learned long ago that sometimes the only way to protect the innocent is to stand against those who would harm them. We don't enjoy fighting, but we're very, very good at it when we must be." Minho stood up carefully. "Here's what I propose. Let me take my ship and my Marines to Velran 7. We'll engage the Kravik, rescue your people, and secure the colony. You can send observers if you want, people who can report back on what we do and how we do it." Velmora looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "I volunteer to be an observer. These are my people. I need to be there." "That's brave," Minho said with genuine respect. "You're welcome aboard the Indomitable." The journey to Velran 7 took 2 days at high speed. For Velmora and the two other council observers who had volunteered, Krintar and Orthan, those 2 days were an education in the differences between humans and their own species. The first shock came when the Indomitable accelerated. Even with the artificial gravity compensating, the observers felt the force pushing them back into their seats. What was routine acceleration for a human ship would have crushed most council vessels. "You travel like this normally?" Krintar asked, his small bird-like body trembling. "This is actually pretty gentle," Jiwoo explained from the navigation station. "We're going easy because we have guests. Normal combat acceleration is about 3 times this strong." The 3 observers couldn't hide their amazement. Orthan, speaking through his water tank's communication system, asked, "How do you survive such forces?" Hyun smiled and brought up a holographic display of human anatomy. "Our bones are very dense, much more than yours. Our muscles are stronger. Our cardiovascular system is built to pump blood even under high gravity. Earth made us tough because it had to. A weak human wouldn't have survived long enough to have children." Over the next 2 days, the observers learned more about humans than they ever expected. They watched Somin's Marines train in the ship's gym, performing exercises that looked impossibly difficult. They saw humans eat food that would be toxic to most council species. They learned about Earth's history, the ice ages, the predators, the diseases, the wars. But they also saw humans laugh together, share meals, tell jokes, and show kindness to the 3 nervous observers. Slowly, their fear began to mix with understanding. On the morning of the 2nd day, Minho called everyone to the main briefing room. The Marines filed in, 40 men and women in combat armor that looked both protective and intimidating. The council observers sat at the back watching carefully. Minho brought up a tactical display of Velran 7. "Here's the situation. The Kravik have occupied this mining station in orbit around the colony world. They're using it as a base of operations. 300 Trellin hostages are being held in the station's cargo bays. The Kravik themselves number approximately 300 warriors." He pointed to different sections of the station. "Lieutenant Kang will lead the assault teams. We'll breach here, here, and here simultaneously. The Kravik will expect us to attack from one direction, so hitting them from multiple angles will create confusion." Somin stood up and took over the briefing. "Rules of engagement are as follows. Protect the hostages at all costs. Neutralize any Kravik who resist. If they surrender, we take them prisoner. We don't kill unnecessarily, but we don't hesitate to protect ourselves or the hostages. Is that clear?" "Yes, ma'am," the Marines answered in unison. Bellamora raised her hand hesitantly. "Captain Kim, what weapons will you use?" "The Kravik have thick armor. Show them," Minho said to Somin. Somin picked up a rifle from the weapons rack. "This is a standard kinetic weapon. It fires solid projectiles using chemical propulsion, gunpowder. Simple, reliable, and it works without any electronics that could be disabled by the Kravik's biological EMP." She activated a training dummy at the end of the room and fired once. The dummy exploded into fragments. The sound made all 3 observers jump. "The projectile travels faster than sound," Somin explained. "It hits with enough force to penetrate the Kravik's natural armor. We also carry these." She drew a long knife from her belt for close quarters combat. "You fight with blades?" Orthan asked, sounding horrified. "At close range? Sometimes that's necessary," Somin said calmly. "Humans evolved using tools as weapons. We're comfortable with close combat in a way that many species aren't." Deho spoke up next, showing technical diagrams of the mining station. "I've found a way to use their own systems against them. The Kravik prefer cold low-light environments because that's what their homeworld is like. I can override the station's environmental controls to make it uncomfortably bright and warm for them. Not enough to cause real harm, but enough to slow them down. Psychological warfare," Jiwoo added. "We're not just fighting their bodies. We're fighting their minds. When they realize they're facing an enemy they don't understand, they'll make mistakes." The final part of the briefing covered rescue procedures for the hostages. Hyun had prepared medical supplies and translator devices. "When we find the Trellin prisoners, they'll be terrified," she said. "We need to approach them carefully and let them know we're friends. Velmora will need you to help with that." Velmora nodded, though she looked nervous about what was coming. That night, as the ship approached Velran 7, Minho found Velmora standing in the observation lounge. "Looking out at the stars, trouble sleeping?" he asked gently. "I'm scared," she admitted. Not just of the Kravik, but of what I'll see tomorrow. Your people are going to fight and possibly kill. My species gave up violence 10,000 years ago. I don't know if I'm ready to see it again. Minho stood beside her, careful to give her space. Violence is ugly, he said quietly. It's brutal and terrible, and anyone who says otherwise is lying. But sometimes it's necessary. The Kravik took your people. They won't give them back peacefully, so we have to take them back by force. How do you live with that? Bellamora asked. How do humans live knowing you're capable of such things? We remember why we fight, Minho said. We don't fight for glory or fun. We fight to protect people who can't protect themselves. We fight so that peaceful people like you can continue to live in peace. That's what makes it bearable. Bellamora was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I hope my people survive tomorrow. But I also hope we learn something from you. We've been peaceful for so long that we forgot how to be strong. Maybe we need both. Maybe everyone needs both, Minho agreed. The next morning, the Indomitable reached Velran 7. The mining station hung in orbit, dark except for the occasional light from Kravik activity. On the bridge, everyone took their positions. All Marines to assault positions, Summon ordered. Seal armor and check weapons. Engineering. Prepare to override station systems on my mark, Minho commanded. Medical team standing by, Yun reported. The 3 council observers strapped into safety seats, their eyes wide with fear and anticipation. This is it, Jiwoo said quietly. Beginning approach. The Indomitable moved toward the station like a predator stalking prey. Inside the station, the Kravik had no idea what was about to hit them. They were warriors from a harsh world. They were strong, fast, and fierce. But they had never faced humans before. They were about to learn what it meant to be from a death world. The Kravik War Prime Kesharak stood in the command center of the captured mining station, watching his warriors patrol the corridors on the security monitors. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The soft prey species was helpless. Soon more colony ships would arrive and they would claim this entire region of space. Then the alarm started blaring. War Prime. His second-in-command chittered urgently. Unknown vessel approaching. Large energy signature. Kesharak moved to the sensors, his forearms gesturing commands. Deploy the organic disruptor. Shut down their systems. The Kravik's biological weapon launched. A living mass of electromagnetic cells designed to paralyze any electronic system. It hit the approaching ship and spread across its hull. On the Indomitable's bridge, lights flickered briefly. Deho's fingers flew across his console. EMP weapon deployed against us, he reported calmly. Shielding holding at 92%. Backup systems online? We're fine. Minho smiled grimly. The Kravik's weapon was designed to work against council species, who relied entirely on delicate electronics. Human military systems were built with redundancy and shielding, designed to survive electromagnetic pulses from nuclear weapons. Launch assault shuttles, Minho ordered. Begin the operation. 3 small ships detached from the Indomitable and streaked toward different docking ports on the mining station. Inside each shuttle, Marines prepared for breach and entry. Salmon led the primary team, her rifle ready. Remember, protect the hostages first, neutralize threats second. Watch your corners and cover your partners. Let's bring everyone home. The shuttle hit the docking port with a magnetic clamp. Cutting torches burned through the outer airlock in seconds. Then the doors blasted open and the Marines poured through. The first group of Kravik warriors was waiting, their blade arms raised, their mandibles clicking with anticipation. They charged forward, expecting easy prey like the Trellin. The Marines opened fire. The sound was deafening in the metal corridor, sharp cracks of gunfire that echoed like thunder. The Kravik's natural armor, strong enough to deflect most council weapons, shattered under the impact of high-velocity projectiles. 3 warriors fell in the first 2 seconds. The remaining Kravik stopped, confused. This wasn't how prey was supposed to act. Second wave, go, someone commanded. Another group of Marines moved forward in coordinated pairs, each covering the other's blind spots. They advanced through the corridor with practiced efficiency, clearing each intersection and doorway. In the command center, Kesharak watched the security feeds in disbelief. His warriors were falling back.
Falling back!
It was impossible. These new enemies were smaller than Kravik. Their bodies looked soft, but they fought with terrifying precision. All warriors to the breach points, Kesharak commanded. Overwhelm them with numbers. Dozens of Kravik warriors rushed through the station's corridors, converging on the 3 human assault teams. They would crush these invaders with sheer force the way they crushed all opposition. Daiho, monitoring from the Indomitable, saw the Kravik response on his scans. "Captain, they're massing for a counterattack. Execute the environmental override," Minho ordered. Now, Daiho's fingers danced across his controls. Throughout the mining station, lights blazed to full intensity. Harsh, bright illumination that hurt Kravik eyes adapted for dim conditions. Temperature controls spiked, raising the air temperature to Earth normal levels. Oxygen content increased. The Kravik warriors slowed, disoriented by the sudden changes. Their bodies, evolved for cold, dark environments, struggled with the heat and brightness. The human Marines, comfortable in these conditions, pressed their advantage. Soman's team reached a junction where 20 Kravik warriors blocked the path to the cargo bays where hostages were held. The Kravik charged forward, blade arms swinging. "Switch to CQC protocols," Soman commanded, slinging her rifle and drawing her combat knife. The council observers, watching through helmet cameras from the safety of the Indomitable, gasped in horror. The humans were going to fight these monsters hand to hand? What happened next stunned them. The Marines moved like dancers, each step calculated, each motion efficient. They used the Kravik's own momentum against them, redirecting charges, striking at joints and weak points with surgical precision. When a Kravik swung its blade arms, a Marine would sidestep, grab the arm, and use leverage to throw the much larger creature off balance. Soman faced the largest Kravik warrior directly. It towered over her, its 4 arms ready to tear her apart. It lunged forward with blinding speed. She went low under its guard and drove her knife into a soft joint between armor plates. The warrior screamed, a horrible chittering sound, and collapsed. The other Kravik, seeing their strongest fighter defeated so quickly, hesitated. That moment of hesitation was fatal. The Marines pressed forward, and the Kravik line broke. Throughout the station, similar scenes played out. Human teams moved through corridors with relentless efficiency. Some Kravik warriors fought bravely, but they were facing an enemy they didn't understand, an enemy that used strategy, coordination, and centuries of accumulated military knowledge. In the command center, Kesharak watched his forces crumble. How was this possible? His warriors were the strongest, the fastest, the most fearsome fighters from a world that ate the weak. A door behind him exploded inward. A human soldier stepped through, weapon raised. "Surrender," the human said through a translation device. "Order your warriors to stand down and no one else needs to die." Kesharak roared and charged. He was War Prime. He would never surrender. The human shot him once in each leg, precise shots that crippled but didn't kill. Kesharak fell, howling in pain and rage. "Medic!" the human called. "We need this one alive for questioning." Throughout the station, the remaining Kravik warriors found themselves surrounded, outmaneuvered, and defeated. Some tried to surrender. Others fought to the end. But within 3 hours of the assault beginning, the station was secure. Somin led her team to the cargo bays where the Trellin hostages were held. The doors were locked and reinforced. "Daiho, can you override?" From the Indomitable, Daiho worked his magic with the station systems. The doors hissed open. Inside, 300 Trellin huddled together in the darkness, thin and scared. They looked up at the armored figures entering their prison and cringed away in fear. "It's okay," Soman said gently, removing her helmet so they could see her face. "We're here to help. We're friends." The Trellin stared at her in confusion. Friends? These beings who had just fought through a station full of deadly warriors? Velmora pushed past Soman and entered the cargo bay. "My people, I am Velmora. These humans answered our call for help. They've come to take us home." Slowly, the Trellin began to understand. These strange beings from a death world had fought and defeated the Kravik swarm. Not for conquest or glory, but because someone had asked for help. A young Trellin child approached Soman hesitantly. "Are you a monster?" the child asked. Soman knelt down to the child's level and smiled gently. "Maybe once we were. But we learned to be something better. We learned to be heroes when someone needs us to be." On the Indomitable's bridge, the 3 council observers sat in stunned silence. They had watched the entire battle unfold. They had seen violence and skill and terrifying efficiency, but they had also seen discipline, mercy, and restraint. They could have killed all the Kravik, Krintar said quietly. But they took prisoners when they could. They showed mercy even in combat. These are the Deathworlders, Orthan said with wonder in his voice. These are the beings we feared. And they saved us. Minho stood from his captain's chair. Medical teams begin evacuation of the hostages. Security teams secure the Kravik prisoners. And someone get me a line to the Kravik leader. It's time we had a conversation. The Battle of Velran Station was over. Humanity had proven it could fight. Now came the harder part, proving it could build peace. 3 days after the battle, Captain Minho sat across a table from the captured Kravik war prime Keshrak. The large insectoid warrior was restrained but conscious, his wounds treated by Hun's medical team. Between them, a translation device hummed quietly. You should have killed me, Keshrak said, his mandibles clicking. That is what warriors do to defeated enemies. We're not your enemies, Minho said calmly. We're soldiers who responded to a distress call. There's a difference. You speak in riddles. You defeated my swarm. You are the stronger predator. Now you should claim your territory. Minho leaned back in his chair. That's not how humans work. Tell me, War Prime, why did the Kravik attack the Trellin colony? Keshrak was silent for a long moment. Then he said, Because we are dying. Those 4 words changed everything. Over the next hour, Keshrak told his story. The Kravik homeworld was experiencing ecological collapse. Their sun was entering a new phase, growing hotter. The delicate balance of their cold world ecosystem was breaking down. Crops were failing. Water sources were drying up. Millions of Kravik were starving. We sent scouts into space, Keshrak explained, looking for new worlds we could survive on. But all the worlds we found were already claimed by the Council species. We tried to ask for help. They didn't answer our messages. So we decided to take what we needed. You attacked because you were desperate, Minho said. We attacked because we had no choice. In our culture, strength determines survival. The strong eat. The weak starve. This is natural law. Minho stood and walked to the window looking out at the stars. On Earth, we used to think the same way. Strong nations conquered weak ones. The powerful took from the powerless. We fought wars over resources, territory, pride. For thousands of years, that's how humans lived. Then you understand, Keshrak said. I understand, Minho agreed. But we learned something important. Strength alone isn't enough. You can conquer, but you can't hold forever. Eventually you make too many enemies or a stronger opponent appears. The only way to truly survive is to make allies instead of enemies. Keshrak's many eyes studied the human captain. You speak like a philosopher, not a warrior. I'm both, Minho said. That's what humans learn to be. The conversation was interrupted when Hyun entered with a datapad. Captain, I've finished analyzing the Kravik biology and their situation. It's bad. Their homeworld will be uninhabitable within 10 years. They need to relocate their entire population. We're talking about billions of Kravik. Can it be done? Minho asked. Not to any existing council worlds, Hyun said. The Kravik need high-gravity environments with specific atmospheric conditions, but... She hesitated. We have surveys of several uninhabited worlds in human space that match their requirements. Worlds that are too harsh for humans to easily colonize but would be perfect for the Kravik. Keshrak leaned forward as far as his restraints allowed. You would give us worlds? After we attacked your allies? We would help you relocate, Minho corrected. Not give. You'd have to earn those worlds through cooperation. But yes, we'd help you. Why? The question came out as a harsh chitter. This makes no sense. We are your enemies. Minho turned to face the War Prime directly. Because we've been where you are. Desperate, scared. Making terrible choices because we saw no other option. And we learned that the cycle of violence only ends when someone chooses to break it. Back on the council station, this news caused an uproar. Felmora stood before the council assembly arguing passionately. They attacked us. They killed our people. And now you want to reward them? Senator Morvex was practically glowing with anger. I'm not saying we reward them, Minho explained to the assembled council. I'm saying we give them an alternative to extinction. The Kravik attacked because they were desperate. If we help them find a home, they have no reason to attack anyone. And if they attack again, another representative demanded. Soman spoke up from her position behind Minho. Then we'll stop them again. But this time we'd stop them as people who betrayed our help, not as desperate refugees. The moral weight of that is very different. Felomora stood quietly for a moment, her eyes distant. Everyone knew her thoughts were with the Trellin who had died in the Kravik raids. Finally she spoke. I hate what the Kravik did to my people. I hate them for the fear and pain they caused, but... She paused, her voice shaking. But I've seen them. I've seen their captured warriors, and they're not monsters. They're beings trying to survive just like us. If we have the power to help them and we don't, what does that make us? The debate continued for 2 days. The council was deeply divided. Some species wanted the Kravik exterminated. Others wanted them imprisoned forever. A few agreed with the human proposal. During those 2 days, something unexpected happened. The council observers who had witnessed the battle began sharing their recordings with the wider council. They showed not just the fighting, but what came after. Humans gently caring for rescued Trellin hostages, treating wounded Kravik prisoners, sharing their food with both sides. One clip went viral across council space. It showed a human marine, her armor still scarred from battle, kneeling beside a young Trellin child who was crying in fear. The marine removed her helmet and sang a soft lullaby, a human song that needed no translation to convey comfort and safety. Public opinion began to shift. These Deathworlders were not the monsters the council had feared. They were capable of both terrible violence and remarkable compassion. Finally, the council voted. The decision was narrow, but it passed. The Kravik would be offered relocation assistance to new worlds in human-surveyed space. In exchange, they would have to agree to several conditions. First, all Kravik would undergo peaceful integration training. Second, they would contribute to a joint defense force protecting council space. Third, they would work to repay the damages caused to Trellin colonies. Fourth, they would allow human and council observers to monitor their new settlements. When Minho brought this news to Kesharak, the War Prime sat in silence for a long time. You defeated us in battle, Kesharak said finally. You could have exterminated us. Instead, you offer us not just survival, but a future. I do not understand your species. You will, Minho said. We're going to be working together for a long time. You'll learn that humans believe in second chances. We believe that yesterday's enemy can become tomorrow's friend. And if we betray this trust, then we'll stop you again, Minho said simply. But we don't think you will. The Kravik are warriors, yes, but you're also survivors, and survivors know that cooperation is stronger than conquest. Kesharak nodded slowly, his mandibles clicking in a pattern that Hyun's translation software identified as contemplative agreement. That night, Velmora visited the human delegation in their quarters. She found Minho standing alone on an observation deck looking at the stars. I wanted to thank you, she said quietly, for saving my people, for showing mercy to the Kravik, for teaching the council that strength and compassion can coexist. We just did what any decent beings would do, Minho said. No, Velmora said firmly. Most beings would have chosen revenge. Most would have killed the Kravik and felt justified. You chose a harder path. You chose to build a bridge instead of digging a grave. Minho smiled. On Earth we have a saying, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. We learned that lesson through centuries of war. We're just trying to help others avoid the same mistakes we made. Velmora looked out at the stars. The council has lived in peace for 10,000 years. But it was a shallow peace, built on the absence of conflict rather than the presence of understanding. Maybe we needed the Kravik crisis. Maybe we needed you to show us what real peace requires. What does it require? Minho asked. Courage, Velmora said. The courage to face violence when necessary. The courage to show mercy when possible. The courage to hope for something better. They stood together in comfortable silence. A herbivore from a garden world and a predator from a death world, looking toward a future neither could have imagined a month ago. 6 months passed. Terra Nova 7, the designated Kravik relocation world, slowly transformed from a harsh but empty planet into a living colony. The world had 1.3 times Earth's gravity, too heavy for most council species but perfect for the Kravik. Its red sun provided the dim light they preferred, and its cold climate matched their evolutionary needs. Engineer Deho stood on a hillside overlooking the main settlement, a datapad in his hand showing construction progress. Beside him, a Kravik engineer named Vreshka studied the same data through her own device. The atmospheric processors are running at 95% efficiency, Deho said. Another 2 months and the air quality will be stable across the whole colony. Your technology is remarkable, Vreshka clicked. On our homeworld, such terraforming would take decades. You do it in months. We've had practice, Diho said. Humans have been modifying hostile environments for thousands of years. It's kind of what we do. Below them, Kravik workers and human engineers worked side by side, building infrastructure for the growing colony. It hadn't been easy at first. The Kravik were used to taking what they needed by force. The idea of asking for help or trading fairly was foreign to them, but slowly they were learning. Dr. Hyun ran an educational program teaching Kravik about council culture and human history. She found that the Kravik were fascinated by human evolution. They understood survival pressure. They understood adaptation. What amazed them was humanity's ability to cooperate despite their predatory nature. You hunt in packs, a Kravik student observed during one session, like us. But you also have something we don't. You have... She struggled to find the word. Forgiveness? Yes, Hyun confirmed. Humans learned that holding grudges forever makes you weaker, not stronger. If you spend all your energy fighting old enemies, you have nothing left for new challenges. The student was quiet, processing this concept. This is why you helped us. Even after we attacked your allies? Exactly, Hyun said. We saw you were desperate, not evil. That made all the difference. Meanwhile, Lieutenant So-min oversaw the creation of the Frontier Defense Force, a joint military unit combining human marines and Kravik warriors with volunteer council species. The training was intense, designed to push everyone to their limits. On the training field, So-min watched a human marine and a Kravik warrior run an obstacle course together. The Kravik's raw strength helped them over walls, while the humans' endurance kept them going through the long run. They were learning to complement each other's abilities. Hunt leader Varsek, the Kravik So-min had captured during the battle, now served as her co-instructor. He had initially resisted the idea of cooperation, but gradually he began to see the value in combined tactics. Your species is strange, Varsek said to So-min during a break in training. You are small and your bodies look weak, but you never stop. You never give up. How? So-min smiled. Humans are endurance hunters. We're not the fastest or strongest, but we can keep going longer than almost anything. Our ancestors would chase prey for hours or even days until it collapsed from exhaustion. That's in our blood. Varsek's mandibles clicked in what Hyun's research had identified as respect. We Kravik respect strength, but we are learning that endurance is also strength. Persistence is also power. Now you're getting it, So-min said. Want to run another course? Varsek's eyes gleamed. Try to keep up with me, little human. They ran together, pushing each other, competing but also cooperating. By the end, both were exhausted and laughing, a sound that would have seemed impossible months ago. But not everything was peaceful. A faction of Kravik, led by a warrior named Draktor, rejected the integration program. They saw cooperation with soft prey species as shameful. They wanted to maintain the old Kravik ways, take what you need, fight for survival, show no weakness. Draktor gathered followers in secret, planning to sabotage the colony's power systems and prove that cooperation was foolish. At the same time, on the council station, Senator Morvex led a group that still distrusted humans and Kravik. They argued that Deathworlders were too dangerous to integrate into peaceful society. They wanted to isolate both species, keeping them away from council space. These two extremist groups, though they hated each other, both threatened the fragile peace. The crisis came when a distress signal arrived from a council mining operation in the Outer Rim. Unknown raiders were attacking, and the council had no nearby forces to respond. Commander Jiwoo, who had been coordinating training for the Frontier Defense Force, immediately assembled a response team. 20 human marines, 30 Kravik warriors, and 10 volunteers from council species formed the Rapid Deployment Unit. This is our first real mission, Jiwoo told the assembled force. Those are innocent miners under attack. We're going to save them. Human, Kravik, or council, it doesn't matter. We're all on the same team now. Senator Morvex, who had been observing the training program with skepticism, insisted on joining the mission. I need to see this so-called cooperation in action, he said. The response team boarded a fast assault ship and raced toward the mining station. When they arrived, they found the situation was worse than expected. The raiders were automated warships from an ancient conflict, machines that had been dormant for thousands of years, until the mining operation accidentally reactivated them. The machines were heavily shielded and ignored all communication attempts. They were simply programmed to destroy anything they detected. We need to board them, Jiwoo decided. Shut them down from the inside. That means splitting into 3 teams for 3 ships. The teams deployed. Jiwoo led one team, Somin led another, and Varsek led the third. Each team was a mix of humans, Kravik, and council species. Boarding the ancient warships was dangerous. The machines had internal defenses, laser grids, security drones, and sealed corridors. But the mixed teams worked together perfectly. Humans provided tactical planning and technical expertise. Kravik contributed raw strength to break through reinforced doors. Council species used their unique abilities. Krintar's small size let him access tight spaces. Orthan's aquatic suit protected him from electrical hazards. On Varsek's ship, a security door collapsed, blocking their path. A human marine tried to cut through with a torch, but the door was too thick. They were running out of time. Move, Varsek commanded. He braced his forearms against the door and pushed. His massive muscles strained. Alone, even a Kravik couldn't move the door, but the humans joined him, adding their strength. Together, they shifted the door enough to squeeze through. Good work, the human marine said, clapping Varsek on his armored shoulder. Couldn't have done that without you. Varsek felt something unfamiliar, pride that came not from individual strength but from working together. Each team reached the core of their target ship and shut down the ancient AI controlling it. The battle lasted less than an hour with minimal casualties. The council miners were saved. Senator Morvex, who had watched the entire operation from the command ship, sat in stunned silence. He had seen humans, Kravik, and council species work together seamlessly. He had seen them risk their lives for each other. He had seen something he didn't think possible, genuine cooperation between predators and prey. When the teams returned, Morvex approached Jiwoo. I was wrong, he said simply. I thought Deathworlders were too dangerous to trust. I didn't understand that danger and threat are not the same thing. Fire is dangerous, but we use it for warmth and cooking. Your people are dangerous, yes, but you direct that danger toward protecting others, not harming them. Jiwoo smiled. That's the point of civilization, Senator. Taking our dangerous instincts and channeling them toward good purposes. Back on Terra Nova 7, news of the successful mission spread quickly. The integration program gained new supporters. Even some of Draktor's followers began to question their leader's rejection of cooperation. Representative Velmora visited the colony to see the progress firsthand. She walked through streets where Kravik and humans lived side by side. She saw children of different species playing together, though their games looked alarmingly rough by council standards. She met with broodmother Keshira, the mother of the war prime who had been killed by Somin during the battle for Velrin Station. The meeting was difficult. Velmora had lost family to Kravik raids. Keshira had lost a son to human warriors. Both carried grief. I cannot forgive what your people did, Velmora said honestly. Not yet. Maybe never. But I can see you're trying to change. I can see you're young, learning a better way. Keshira clicked her mandibles slowly. We took from you because we were dying. There is no excuse that makes this right. But we will spend generations making amends. My grandchildren will grow up knowing peace. That is all I can offer. Velmora nodded. Perhaps that's enough. Perhaps teaching the next generation to be better than we were is the only real path forward. They didn't embrace. They didn't become friends. But they reached an understanding, and sometimes that's more valuable than friendship. That night, under the red sun of Terra Nova 7, humans and Kravik gathered for a celebration of the successful mission. They shared food, though their diets were very different, and told stories. Daiho played human music. Kravik sang their war songs, which turned out to be beautiful poetry about survival and hope. 9 months after the first distress call, Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable studying data that made him frown. Long-range sensors had detected something approaching council space from beyond the galaxy. A massive fleet, thousands of ships strong. Jiwoo, are you seeing this? Minho asked his second-in-command. Commander Jiwoo Park leaned over her console, her expression grave. Confirmed. Unknown fleet origin outside the galaxy. Current trajectory will bring them into council space in approximately 60 days. Their technology signature doesn't match anything in our databases. How big are we talking? At least 3,000 ships, Captain. Some of them are enormous, 10 times the size of our largest vessels. Minho felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. This was bad. Very bad. Get me a priority channel to the Council. They need to know about this immediately. Within hours, the Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from all member species crowded into the Great Hall, along with human observers and Kravik representatives. The mood was tense. Minho presented the sensor data on the main display. This fleet is moving slowly but deliberately. They've already passed through 3 uninhabited star systems, and our probes show they've harvested resources from each one. Have they responded to communication attempts? Asked Senator Morvix. We've tried every frequency and protocol we know. No response. They're either ignoring us or they don't understand our signals. Representative Velmora spoke up. Could they be hostile? Like the Kravik were? We don't know, Minho admitted. But a fleet this size is usually only built for one of 2 reasons: colonization or conquest. Either way, they're coming whether we're ready or not. Silence fell over the chamber as everyone absorbed this information. For 10,000 years, the Council had known peace. The Kravik crisis had been their first real threat in living memory, and they'd needed human help to resolve it. Now something potentially far worse was approaching. What do we do? A small voice asked. It came from Krintar, the bird-like council observer who had witnessed the Battle of Velrun Station. Minho took a breath. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Council needs to prepare for possible war. I recommend we activate a galaxy-wide defense protocol. Every species contributes what they can. We build defenses, train forces, and prepare for every scenario. The Council doesn't have the military capability for something like this, Morvex objected. We have the Frontier Defense Force, but that's only 500 beings. This fleet numbers in the thousands. Then we build more, Soman said, stepping forward. We've proven that Council species can be trained for defense. It won't be easy and it won't be fast, but it's possible. Varsek, the Kravik hunt leader, spoke up in his clicking voice. The Kravik volunteer all our warriors. We owe the Council a debt. We will fight to defend these worlds as if they were our own. This statement caused a ripple of surprise through the chamber. The Kravik, who had attacked Council worlds less than a year ago, were now offering to defend them? Velmora stood. The Trellin have no warriors. We have no weapons. But we have resources and we have determination. We will support this effort in every way we can. One by one, other species pledged their support. Engineers, resources, volunteers, everyone offered what they could. The Council, facing a threat they couldn't ignore, was finally learning what it meant to stand together. Over the next 60 days, the galaxy transformed. Human military advisors deployed to hundreds of worlds, teaching basic defense tactics. Daiho and other engineers designed defensive platforms that combined human, Kravik, and Council technologies. Hyun worked on communication protocols, hoping to reach the unknown fleet peacefully before violence became necessary. On Terra Nova 7, the Kravik training program expanded dramatically. Thousands of warriors volunteered, eager to prove their worth to their new allies. The Frontier Defense Force grew from 500 to 5,000 members. But the most remarkable change happened in Council species themselves. Beings who had never imagined fighting suddenly found themselves learning basic combat skills. They would never be warriors like humans or Kravik, but they learned to defend themselves, to work together, to face danger without fleeing. Captain Minho spent these weeks coordinating the largest military operation in Council history. He worked with Council strategists, Kravik war leaders, and human officers to create a unified defense plan. It was exhausting, frustrating, and sometimes seemed impossible. Late one night, Admiral Park contacted him from Earth. "How are you holding up, Captain?" "Honestly, sir, I'm not sure we can pull this off. We're trying to build a galaxy-wide defense force from scratch in 2 months. The Council species are trying, but they're scared. The Kravik are eager but undisciplined, and we're all preparing for an enemy we don't understand. That's always been humanity's situation," Admiral Park said with a slight smile. "We never fully understand what we're facing. We just do our best anyway. That's what makes us human. But what if our best isn't enough? Then at least we'll know we tried. And we won't face it alone. Look at what you've built, Minho. A year ago, the Council and the Kravik were enemies. Now they're fighting side by side. That's worth something, regardless of what happens." The conversation gave Minho strength to continue. The work went on. Finally, with 10 days remaining until the unknown fleet arrived, a miracle happened. Dr. Hyun, working with Council linguists and human cryptographers, finally decoded a message from the approaching ships. The bridge crew gathered around as Hyun played the translated message. A being appeared on the screen, crystalline and beautiful, like living glass shaped into a vaguely humanoid form. The being's voice came through the translators in a melodious tone. I am crystalline speaker Vordan, representative of the Vordan Collective. We apologize for our silence. Your communication methods are different from what we know, and it took time to understand them. Thank God, Jiwoo whispered. The message continued. We come seeking refuge. 10,000 of your years ago, our galaxy was invaded by entities we call the Devourers, beings that consume all life they encounter. The Vordan fled, searching for a place beyond the Devourers' reach. We have traveled through the void between galaxies. We are tired. We are desperate. We seek only sanctuary. The message ended. The bridge crew sat in stunned silence. They're refugees, Hyun said. Just like the Kravik were refugees. They're not invaders, they're running from something worse. Or, Soman said carefully, that's what they want us to think. We have no way to verify their story. Either way we respond, Minho decided. We prepare for the best but stay ready for the worst. That's what humanity does. The council convened again, this time with new information. The debate was intense. Some representatives wanted to turn the Vordan away, fearing it was a trick. Others wanted to help, believing no one should be condemned without proof of wrongdoing. Representative Velmora surprised many by supporting giving the Vordan a chance. A year ago, the Kravik attacked us. We called for help and humans responded. They showed us that desperate people sometimes do terrible things, but that doesn't make them evil. If the Vordan are truly refugees, we should help them. If they're lying, we're ready to defend ourselves. Senator Morvex, once the strongest voice against trusting outsiders, spoke in support. I've learned that strength and mercy can coexist. Let's show the galaxy that the Council stands for both. The vote passed. The Council would allow a small Vordan delegation to land, under strict protocols and heavy observation. If their story was true, negotiations would begin for sanctuary. If it was false, the combined Human Kravik Council defense forces stood ready to respond. The day came when the first Vordan ship entered Council space. It was enormous and beautiful, made of what looked like crystalline structures that caught and reflected light in mesmerizing patterns. A delegation of 3 Vordan landed at the Council station, escorted by human marines and Kravik warriors. The contrast was striking. Beings of living crystal walking alongside organic predators from Deathworlds. The talks began. They were difficult. The Vordan had technology far beyond anything the Council or humans possessed, which made many nervous. But their story checked out. Deep space probes confirmed signs of massive devastation in their home galaxy. The Devourers are real, the Vordan speaker said. We barely escaped. We lost billions of our people. We've been traveling for what you call 10,000 years, hoping to find a place where we could finally stop running. And if these Devourers follow you here? Minho asked the question everyone was thinking. They might, the Vordan admitted. We've tried to hide our trail, but they're persistent. If they come, we will fight beside you. We won't let another civilization fall to them. The negotiations continued for days. Slowly, carefully, an agreement took shape. The Vordan would be allowed to settle on uninhabited worlds at the edge of Council space. They would share their advanced technology to help build better defenses. In exchange, they would accept Council oversight and agree to support the galaxy's defense if the Devourers ever appeared. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a beginning.